Welcome, my name is Colleen Tauke and I'm the sewing specialist at Fons and Porter. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use the 60-degree triangle template to make wonderful, quick cutting for this quilt. So we've got the template here, and you'll notice that when you get close to it, that it has lines across it that tell you what size strip to cut and what size triangle will finish. So the nice part is you can use this for 2, 3, 4, and 6 inch finished triangles. Okay, so the quilt behind us, called Triangle Party, uses a constant navy blue as one of the triangles and then an explosion of bright colors for the other triangles. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how to cut the 2 different sizes that go into that quilt. Now, I've used a little bit different colorway here, but you'll still understand what I'm working on. So I'm going to take the template and I'm going to put it on to a 6 inch strip, because that's the largest triangle that we can make. Now, I would want to slide it to one side so that I can efficiently cut and not waste too much fabric. And we'll take this back out of the way. Now, for the large triangles, we're going to make 2 cuts, one away from your body, and then we're going to rotate everything. You could put it on a rotating mat, or you can turn the block around depending on if you have one of those available to use. And we're going to cut then the second side. So we have a nice, clean, quick triangle, large triangles. And then we're going to cut strips for the smaller triangles. We want a 3 inch finished for those, and our template tool tells us that the strip needs to be cut 3 3/8 inches wide. So I've gone ahead and cut 3 3/8 inch strips. Now I can quickly go in, and you could, if your rotary cutter blade is nice and sharp, you can stack a layer of strips together and cut multiple triangles at once. I wouldn't stack maybe more than 3 or 4 because there tends to be a little bit of shift if your stack gets too high. But then you can quickly cut the triangles for this entire quilt, all cut from strips. Okay, now we need to address the piecing on this. And I'll demonstrate on some of the small triangles here. And there are rows that have just large triangles, as the top row of this one shows. And then when you get down a little ways, you'll see small triangles fit together to create a space or two. It makes it that much more fun. Okay, so we're going to join 2 triangles together like this, and with right sides together, you'll notice since they're the exact same size, they match up perfectly. Okay, we're going to take them into the sewing machine here, and we're going to use our 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to get it lined up just right. Now remember, there are bias edges here. We don't want to tug or pull on those seam allowances because we don't want to have distortion. So treat them quite gently. One thing you can do to help in the piecing process before you actually cut your strips is to use a little bit of sizing on your fabric or spray starch, and that will ensure that your fabrics don't distort as you're sewing. Now the tip on this one is that we want you to press your seam allowances open. I know that's kind of a different step for most of us. We're used to pressing seam allowances to one side. But here we would like you to open up those seam allowances very gently, not stretching on them. Because of the intersections on triangles, you'll notice there's going to be a lot of bulk. So we want you to open up the seam allowances, and that will give you a better finished product. Okay, we've got the first 2 joined. Now, as we add the 3rd triangle, here's where the fun part is. Don't trim off those little dog ears at this point, because as you lay the next one on, you'll notice that little dog ear gives you exact placement for your next triangle. So then it's simply take it to the sewing machine, 1/4 inch seam again, and as you leave each of those little tips on, you will have a perfect place to match up each block as you add them. I know it's tempting to go back and trim them off because we're used to doing that, but in this case, leave them on. It's a roadmap. Okay. Now we open up, and again, open up those seam allowances, and you'll know after a while that it's just going to be a smoother finished product when you're done. And our goal is always to have a nice flat quilt top when we get to the end. Okay. Make sure you get that nice and flat, and we're off and running. And again, see that little triangle left behind is going to be the spot for us to line up the next consecutive triangle that we add. Okay, now once we have rows constructed, because we're used to going and making rows in our quilts, then you're going to want to join the rows together. And if you want to get good intersections, if you're looking for those points, which some of us really are addicted to, what we have to do is lay our rows right sides together. This one's already stitched, but the idea is to pin match. So for the intersection on one row, make sure that you pin match to the back side, hit those points, pin them, and then stitch. And again, press seam allowances open. You can see here, all the seam allowances are pressed open. So we're getting a reduced bulk in those really hard to match spots otherwise. When this top is finished, you go back and you straighten the outer edge, and you get the quilt called Triangle Party. We also have another version called Nothing But Triangles. Thanks for joining us. For the pattern and the template for this project, visit shopfonsimporter.com today.